Have you ever had something so big to achieve that it makes you want to curl up into a fetal ball, preferably with gin being main veined into you? Like, this has been my life for so very long. My name's Antoinette and I'm going live every Sunday. And this year, I'm talking about things that I would love my bold 20-year-old self to know as I approach 50. So a few years ago, let's be honest, 25 years ago, where on earth did that time go? A few years ago, I climbed Mount Kenya. I'd done no specific fitness training. I mean, to be fair, I was a PE teacher at the time, playing basketball with the sixth form in the blazing sun in Kenya. So probably as good as my fitness was ever going to get. And thank goodness I was, because I had to carry just a day rucksack up this mountain, while, thank goodness, a very obliging Kenyan Sherpa carried my overstuffed rucksack, literally jogging up the hill, effortlessly, beside me, ahead of me, and then would be waiting at the next stopping point with a warm cup of tea and a snack and a bit of encouragement to refresh me and keep me going. I've digressed a bit, but my point, it took us 3 days, and oh my goodness, it was tough. Like, tougher than I had planned for. I just thought it was going to be a lovely 3-day amble through brilliant countryside with a bit of a mountain, like a gradual incline. Please note that I have never had the desire to climb another mountain since. It was incredible seeing people having to turn back because they had acclimatization sickness, seeing other people limping with blisters so big that I'd just never seen those before because they didn't have inadequate shoes, boots. The worst part was seeing the top of a part of a mountain. I say a part because thinking that, oh yeah, that little peak, that next peak, that's it, we're at the top. Getting there, only to discover that there was more, like much more, days more. I don't know what I was thinking. It was 3 days after all. And the final ascent was brutal. It was on shingle. It was in the middle of the night, in freezing cold conditions. I had every bit of ski gear I owned and then more stuff. It was so cold at the top. Glorious, mind you. Breathtakingly stunning, with the sun rising over Kilimanjaro in the distance. But it was so cold. And we couldn't actually spend too long glorying in our achievement because we would have frozen. And then we had to suffer through this life-threatening, traumatic descent on shingle. In my mind, it was epic. Glad I did it, though. For my current mountain, I feel strongly that the cleaning industry needs a clean-up. There are so many stories that I have heard and continue to hear of low or no pay, of shifts for sex, or turning a blind eye to harassment just so that you can get more work, long untenable hours, 0-hour contracts, poor protective equipment, inadequate resources, challenging clients. I could literally go on and on and on. And now that I am neck deep in the industry, I can see the shades of grey, and I can see the quandaries that are presented to each stakeholder, the client, the company, and the cleaner. And for many days of the year, more than I'd like to admit, I wish that I could just put my hands over my ears, hum a tune, and just ignore it all. Because the alternative is hard. I know, I'm living it. Currently, I could earn more money being a teacher. I'm actually trained for that role. I was really good at it. And by now, I would have been wheeling towards retirement with my mortgage 3 years off from being paid. But instead, via a stop the traffic route, I feel that God has invited me to partner with him in transforming the cleaning industry. Cue dark rim and main vein gin. In my human wisdom, I've distilled this down to 3 points. So point number 1 is to change the tax system for small margin service-based industries like ours. Just a minor feat. 2, to introduce a new piece of employment law that protects both the cleaner and the company, and of course in turn the client would benefit from. I don't know what that looks like. I'm not an employment lawyer, but I do know that something needs to change. And then 3, to educate the whole of the UK around the real cost of ethical cleaning, because unless the buyer understands what's going on and why paying price A is significantly better than price B, nothing gets changed. And all three of those bits need to happen. Simples, right? Now, your mountain may look different to mine, but a mountain is a mountain. So going back to my Mount Kenya climb 25 years ago, had someone described to me in detail what would happen, I probably wouldn't have done it. I certainly would have passed on the final ascent. And do you know what? That would have been a shame. To have gotten so close to the top, but not make the final push, I know I would have regretted that for the rest of my life. So maybe ignorance was bliss. I learned a big lesson during and after that climb. I learned that tough things can be broken down into tiny steps. It's how I kept going. I had a series of mantras that I played over and over in my head. Just one more step, Daniel. Just to the next tree, then you can stop. Maybe you could quit at the next way stop, but let's make the decision after a sit down, a drink and a meal. Just one more step, Daniel. You can do it. And I've pretty much applied that method to the whole of my life. 13 years into the cleaning industry with VAT thresholds, COVID, Brexit, cost of living, staffing crisis thrown in, just to keep it interesting, I wake up each day and remind myself to take just one more step, Daniel. And interestingly, I might be in my final ascent phase. 18 months ago, if you'd asked me what was my plan for the business, it was literally exit. I need to stop this. It's just been going too long. And I looked at the impossible odds of getting in front of the Chancellor of the Exchequer to have a one-on-one, not in a throng of people shouting a question over a microphone or a fence to discuss tax, or of finding the smartest employment lawyer in the country to discuss contracts, and finding a platform to talk to the entire UK about cleaning and the cost of it all. I just thought, that's impossible. Like, where does a PE teacher from Croydon get off thinking these things, and how on earth are these going to happen? But I felt God remind me that this wasn't my rucksack to carry. It was his. All he asks me to do is to carry my day sack and to take the next step, and to trust him to run up the hill ahead of me, to set up camp, get refreshments and encouragement ready, and get me equipped for the next leg. And the moment I stopped dragging that heavy bag and feeling overwhelmed and ill-equipped and untrained for it all, things started to move. And for those of you that follow my Just Help Us story, you'll know that we were part of a roundtable meeting with 11 other people and Rachel Reeves, God willing, the next Chancellor of the Exchequer. And I'm about to be introduced to the smartest employment lawyer in the country, completely unsolicited by me. And the platform to talk to the whole of the UK, well, I've got no idea how that works yet, but I'm trusting God for that next step too. So here is what I would say to little A. How do you eat an elephant, little A? One chunk at a time. The power of one is an incredible thing. One step at a time, one moment at a time, one day at a time. And when you couple that with the power of one almighty God, nothing's impossible. Don't be scared of the big stuff, little A. You've got this, because God's got you. Find great running mates, take lots of rest, and hand over that big rucksack. Now go and change your corner of the world. If you've enjoyed this in any way, and you know someone who needs a speaker, a podcast guest, please slide into my DMs and let's have a chat. Until next week. You're powerful, little A. Be brave, be bold, be kind, choose joy. Have a great week, everyone.